How's it going? Finishing up more of this book here. Learning a lot of interesting stuff regarding the Great Seal and their British Israel teaching. That the Anglo-Saxon race, when you get more into these books, they talk about it, that are the Israel and the 12 tribes, weren't really lost. They came and fled to, Europe, and, came over here to America, and that during the New Renaissance or New Jerusalem, whatever, they're going to become one. Britain and the United States. The United States is the 13th tribe of Manasseh. And all this, which I believe and I feel it's crap. And, yeah. But anyways, continuing on. Lesson 12, the wreath of white roses, Southern Cross, Pleiades, the throne of the universe. Having seen the evolution of souls brought down to sons of Joseph in America, may we again take up the seal at the wreath of white roses? Westward, the star of empire takes its way, as the ages roll and the sons of God, mighty men of old, reincarnate in America to prepare in its seething melting pot for the new race. We unveil the most beautiful of all symbology, the glimpse of heavenly blue enclosed in the white rose wreath. From time immemorial, the red rose has been the symbol of love. All countries which have preserved the original Essene teachings carry the red rose on a cross. But for America, the stars traced a white rose. This is America's national emblem, and for the United States of America, there should be a white rose for each state, indicating the presence of a lodge or college. He's got an interesting footnote where he talks about here, quoting Dr. Paschal Beverly Randolph, the founder of this order in America. He said in this book that he calls Scarce Ravelette, quote, "Many, though by no means all the alchemists and hermetic philosophers, were acolytes of the vast secret brotherhood which has thrived from the earliest ages and under different names in different lands, has performed, is still performing its mission. The members of this mystic union were the Magi of old, who flourished in Chaldea, Mesopotamia, ages before one of their number left his native plains and on foreign soil founded the Hebraic Confederation. They were the original people of Saba, the Sabians, who for long ages preceded the sages of Chaldea. They were the men who founded that Semitic civilization, the faint shade of which we find, having long avenues of centuries in the moldy records of early China, itself numbering its years by the thousands. And of this great brotherhood sprung Brahma, Buddha, Lao, Zoroaster, the Gnostics, the Essenes, and therefore Jesus, who himself was an Essene and preached the sacred doctrine of the mountain of light. They were the dreamers of the ages, the sun of the epochs, eclipsed occasionally, but bursting forth again in glory. They were the men who first discovered the significance of fire, knew that there was something deeper than life in man and profounder than intellect in the universe. Whatever of transcendent light now illumines the world comes from the torches which they lighted at the fountain whence all light streameth upon that mystic mountain which they alone had courage and endurance to climb, and climbed, too, over the ladder, whose rungs were centuries apart. Hermes Trismegistus, Egypt's mighty king, and that other Hermes, Asclepius IX, was an adept, a brother, and a priest, as was Melchizedek before him, that famous pre-Adamite monarch, that Melchizedek, who was reputed to have been born of thought and to have lived for countless ages. The same may be said of the Greek Mercurius. Theirs, too, was that wondrous learning wherein Moses was skilled, and at their fountain the Hebrew Joseph drank deeply. There is nothing original in thaumaturgy, theology, philosophy, psychology, entology, and ontology, but they gave it to the world, and when philosophers thought they had gained new thoughts and truths, the records of the order proved them to have been old ages before the Adamic era of chronology, and to have been the common property of the adepts. Unquote. Anyways, that's quoting Paschal Beverly Randolph. Talks about a vast secret brotherhood that continues to work to this day. So another admission from a secret society's own book of a secret brotherhood working secretly in the world. Anyways. This is question 2. What connection has the White Rose with the Essene sect of Jesus' time? Far in the south, invisible from this latitude, hangs the Southern Cross. This constellation is said to have appeared plainly above Jerusalem at the time of the crucifixion. It is the sign of the Son of God and of purity and sacrifice. The White Rose is invisible to the average mortal eye. What does it prophesy for the race about to be born in America? As has been said, Moses measured the boundaries of all nations in the ages to come by those of Israel. Israel stands for advanced souls, and these are moving, guided by invisible hands, toward America. They will be the leaders of this important time, and others like them will arise in all nations. All will accept the white rose as the sign of purity and the new presentation of the ancient teaching of the Philosopher's Stone. Hence, the mighty race will appear to found the new age. What place has the Darwinian theory in the Rose-Cross teaching? As stated in fundamental law, man was never in an animal. And so there you go. They believe in a different kind of evolution than what you see. I've been taught by many others that the Illuminati, came up with what Darwin theorized, as if that was a major part of their agenda. I don't know exactly, but obviously here, right? It says right here that they don't believe that we were never in an animal. So let me go on a little bit more. Anyways, as stated in fundamental law, as man was never in an animal, yet he may fall as low or lower than an animal and force the soul spark into animal form. The Bible and the Egyptian records agree that man descended from spirit into matter in cycles of involution. So they believe that. And they got a whole chapter on one of their, that's the book that he was citing. I have that book too, where he talks about that we never, ascended from animals. Became human from a monkey, whatever. But that are spiritually, in a spiritual sense, we descended from, spirit into matter. From the heavenly abode, whatever. And that's the evolution that they teach. It's a spiritual evolution, whatever, of consciousness. For ages, man walked the earth in spirit form, sacrificing flowers on his altars. Bloodshed and blood sacrifice were unknown. As the hero age passed, and man more and more took on the lower nature, the four elements became manifest in the eternal war against the goal of immortality. Then the white rose symbol but repeats the teaching of the Grail in the stone. Ever the same story of transmutation of the lower nature into the higher. It portrays the life here on earth as a building power not possible on other planes. What of the 13 stars standing out against the blue sky set in the jewel of Solomon's seal? Now all this is talking about the back of your dollar bill, just in case you missed the other videos or missed whatever, you're just hopping onto this. This is talking all about the symbolism on the back of the dollar bill. So that six-pointed star thing you find on the back of your dollar, I believe it's right above the eagle. Yeah, that's what he's talking about here. It has been a very hidden and occult teaching that the white rose and the jewel also symbolize the Pleiades, the group of tiny stars seen in Taurus. The Pleiades form a rose with a stem, and of them Dante says in Il Paradiso, pronouncing that right, I-L, then P-A-R-A-D-I-S-O, that they are the white rose, symbol of all-powerful love. Quote, here are the scats, rank on rank, of the redeemed, unquote, who have descended the cycles of evolution and ascended those of evolution, sinless souls who never again will fall. These are at rest. The Pleiades group remains a great mystery. Shall we ever unravel it? It is a part of the greater mysteries, the home of God, who dwells behind the light and within the shadow. Eternal mind acting upon all-pervading spirit during eons of time, alternating with eons of rest. Ezra chapter 2 says, quote, then shall my son Christ die in all things that have life, unquote, in reference to the withdrawal of the Christ principle upon which all life forms. This passage explains also the difference between the abstract Christic principle and individuals who have become all Christ. Few know of the Apocrypha of the Old Testament, yet you give many references to it. It is not found in many Bibles, usually being relegated to the large family Bible, now passing out of popularity, or to pulpit Bibles. It gives the key to many truths, but has been little used and less understood. All other symbols we have studied leap up to or duplicate the white rose. In a stupendous culmination and confirmation of the beautiful and delicate mystery in which we have the blue vault of heaven, home of all pure souls, the throne of the universe at its center and the pervading love power. From this throne have gone out the hierarchic powers through the slain Lamb, Christ. From them have emanated the suns and systems in their rhythmic swing, and the star mists, fiery comets ever busy with their tasks of life renewal in all systems, while gathered into one unspeakable whole, the mighty zodiac sweeps on in perfection of the plan toward a far-off divine event, souls forever redeemed by the cross, the serpent no longer trailing in the dust, but lifted into an immortal power. The zodiac is referred to in Job as well as the Pleiades. Is it not? Says Toten, quote, these things are older than the book of Job, which is the oldest book in its entirety in existence. Job alludes to the ecliptic belt as Mazzaroth. On the basis of astronomy's own records, we are carried back to a period in Adam's lifetime, when God set the boundaries of the nations, and long before he divided the earth in the days of Peleg, he set the new constellation Pleiades for Manasseh. Hence, we see it computed and adjusted by exact mathematics that the Pleiades group would be assigned the Republic when in due time our nation had risen under its constellations for the close of the great Aryan cycle and the birth of the new race. That's very interesting. Lesson 13. The 13 stars of Solomon's seal, seal above the eagle, an ancient tradition. So when you pull out your, pull out a dollar, you see that symbol above the eagle. That's the Solomon seal. The Pleiades are set in the sky in the form of a rose with a stem. Why are they set upon the seal in the form of a double triangle? Because certain laws govern the opening of the new age, and certain orders are to be restored as the age comes in. The double triangle is also a six-pointed star. An invisible seventh point is at the center. So now we understand what this is talking about. The New Age is another occult mystic term for the New World Order. And the certain orders that are to be restored as that New World Order arrives or as the age comes in are the religion of the ancient mysteries. Alice Bailey talked about the same thing too, where she talked about the ancient mystery schools being restored and becoming the universal religion. So, what is the history and meaning of the six-pointed star? It has remained in sight as the emblem of Judah and is seen today over the doorways of Jewish synagogues, although often turned so that the 2 points are up. It is, however, no less the emblem of all the 12 tribes of Israel. Washington carried it upon his banner in the Continental Army. The 13 stars so set refer to Manasseh, heir of Joseph, and the law of evolution, which places the Pleiades in the west, rising above our republic. Remember, in these books, Manasseh is referred to here as talking about America, and Joseph is Britain. Are the 13 stars of the seal connected with the woman who fled to America? They are shown as above the mystic lobe, which crowns the feminine pillar of Isis, or Jachin, in Masonic lodges. They herald her return and the recognition of the intuitive principle in man. The double triangle has several names and may have deep significance. This sign is called the Seal of Solomon, or Wise Men, and the double golden triangle in allusion to it as a jewel, which Solomon preserved for future generations. It alludes to an old tradition to be personally applied as well as nationally and racially. May we know these ancient secrets? The double triangle is the figure of a man. One triangle points downward, representing the physical side of man. The other points upward, symbolizing the spiritual or soul side. The interlacing of the two triangles represents the eternal struggle of the two natures, from the age of our ancestors in Egypt, all through the migration to the Promised Land. Our 12-tribed confederation has had this struggle with the serpent, a sign Moses used in addressing the suffering children of Israel in the wilderness. What of the ancient tradition of the double golden triangle interlaced? It concerns Solomon and his temple, said to have been built in Jerusalem. Time out of mind, man demands that which he has not earned, or demands a wonder to be worked, or a miracle performed for his profane eyes. To these he has no right, because he has not learned the lesser mysteries. Hence this gives us the story of Hiram Abiff, Grand Master Architect of Solomon's Temple. What is the story? The story is that of the three traders of all the ages, body, mind, and spirit. The last merely a negative quality which clothes man. Hiram was Grand Master. He had honestly earned this honor by soul growth, consciously worked for. It was at the noon hour when Hiram entered the temple of Solomon, and at the first door a workman met him and demanded that lost word, name of Jehovah, by which great power is said to be given to a Grand Master. When Hiram refused the word, the workman struck him. Passing the second door of the temple, Hiram had a similar experience with the workman there. At the third and north door of the temple, the workman killed the Grand Master for refusing him the word. There were other conspirators to the number of 15, and they carried Hiram's body from the temple and buried it under a heap of rubbish. In this story is presented the ambition of man to destroy his soul rather than earn the right to use the lost word of power. The heap of rubbish symbolizes the false teachings man eagerly accepts with wonders and miracles worked by the powers of darkness. Again, a myth and a legend. How much of this story is actual physical fact? Listen to this. That will be shown in time when the temple in Jerusalem is restored. When the temple in Jerusalem is restored. And what do we got now? We're having what are in the talks now with Trump and rebuilding of the temple. I showed you in another video with Norman Vincent Peale, the Norman Vincent Peale Donald Trump one, that I showed you in his book, Albert Pike's book, Morals and Dogma, that he had written, quoting somebody else, quoting accusations against the Templars, that their secret goal was in rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem. And what are you having talks now of? Building the third temple. Building the third temple. So you have another admission in a secret society book about rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem. I mean, is he coding something else when he's saying that in this book? I don't, point is it's what the words are saying. Here again, we must accept the saying that myths veil holiest mysteries. To know God, we must first study ourselves. But Solomon found and preserved the golden triangle in what way? The jewel was hung around the neck of the Grand Master Hiram when he was murdered and escaped the notice of the traders. He had strength to raise his body before death and cast the jewel into a nearby deep well. Solomon, coming to the temple, missed Hiram and caused search to be made. He next missed the jewel when the body was found and again caused search to be made. The precious jewel was found in the deep well. Solomon then knew that age was not to see the teachings of the seventh-starred triangle, the double golden triangle accepted by the people. Then what did Solomon do under such a sad conviction? Deep down in the holy mountain at Jerusalem, he caused a crypt to be made in a beautiful alabaster altar built. Upon this, he set the double golden triangle as a jewel. He then retired from the crypt with his workmen, caused the door to be sealed, and all wayworks destroyed, forbidding any man to return. For, said Solomon, as for that place, it shall remain unknown until a far distant age, when God shall again gather Israel, and it shall be brought forth. Yet the rejected stone was found where it had been thrown in the rubbish heap by the builders and set upon the temple as a final crown. So tradition says, the Christ stone or rock is sex hygiene instruction on which a solid church may be built. The temple was soon overthrown. The traders were busy and pagan teachings surrounded the Israelites. We may then hope the time has arrived when the stone shall no longer be rejected and the entire double golden triangle be given to the world. Yes, the 7 orders of the jewel now reopen their mystic gates to all who will learn, and the woman returns from the wilderness. And now we're on lesson 14. The Law of 13 as related to Manasseh, America, and Great Britain, Joseph. So always remember when they're talking about Manasseh, the 13th tribe, supposedly, whatever, is talking about America, and Joseph is Great Britain. We have seen that 13 stars are set in the seal of Solomon. Does the number 13 run through the entire symbology? America, or rather the United States and its mission, is based upon the number 13. Will you give proofs of a fundamental law of 13? The first proof is that there are 12 major constellations forever wheeling about the central Alcyone, or Alcyone. Sorry, I'm trying to pronounce it, but I don't think I'm doing a very good job. I haven't really heard this word before, so sorry. It's spelled Alcyone. Central place of the Pleiades, I'm thinking is what they're just saying anyways. The 13th. This gives us 12 months of the year. You have emphasized the law as above, so below. Can we reduce this law to earthly conditions? Man, made in God's image, has 12 nerve centers, 13, and 7 are numbers scientifically concerned with man's evolution. For this reason, in ancient religions, we find 12 Druid stones set around a central altar, and in some instances, there are 48 stones, one for each constellation. The Druids were highly learned and far from being pagans, as accused. Does this law apply to the 12 tribes of Israel? The study of the Hebraic Confederation is one of the best to illustrate the law working out in evolution. Jesus also called 12 disciples, himself the central and 13th figure. The characteristics of the 12 tribes are again seen in the 12 disciples, and also in the 12 major constellations. As said before, especially regarding Joseph, who appears as a deacon in Virgo. Do you believe the calling out of the souls of a Hebraic confederation signified the beginning of the end of a race? Yes, the close of the Aryan cycle or fifth race. We see here the Scythian races, which had begun to degenerate, renewed in this group. Here, leaders were chosen out of these nations and began training for the end. This begins with Jacob's vision of the ladder reaching to heaven and his countless descendants who branched into India, Arabia, Japan, Persia, and west over Europe, Joseph or Britain ever holding the seat of power in the rock teaching, as in Abraham's time the reestablishment was made in Stonehenge. The designers of our emblems then used the number 13 as prophetic. From the constellation of Hercules, the olive leaves, 13 in number, Sagitta, the arrows, 13, the stripes of Lyra, 13, the 13 layers of stone for the ages from Ara, the 13 stars of the Pleiades. As Jacob crossed his hands in blessing Joseph's 2 sons, so under the cross, Ephraim became the 12th or perfect number. Manasseh, the United States, began the new age and race under 13. Finally, Christ's rule will be the 13th kingdom. And historically, do we find the number 13 recurring? We do. Quoting the Reverend John Hardin Allen, quote, "There were 13 colonies, 13 races represented, one for each tribe of Israel. 13 men represented them in the Declaration of Independence, 13 stars and stripes in the first flag, 13 rods in the national mace of the House of Representatives, and 13 rattles on the tail of the serpent depicted on the Massachusetts pine tree flag of the Revolutionary days, and 13 letters in its motto, 'Don't tread on me.'" Unquote. Mr. Allen continues, quote, "Many important national events have occurred also in which 13 is concerned. The first call for troops for the Civil War on the 13th, surrender of Fort Sumter on that date, making the alpha and omega of that war. Dewey captured Manila on the 13th day of the month and broke the back of the Spanish War. In the Mexican War, the decisive battle was fought on the 13th. In the last World War, 13 of our ships first sailed to France on June 13th, 1917, and were 13 days in passing. And the cutting of the St. Mihiel salient under General Pershing occurred on his birthday, Friday, September 13th. Ain't that something, huh? They love to do that, the numerology. Then, the number 13 is by no means unlucky, but one of great import. The number 13 indicates the end of an old and the beginning of a new cycle. Where America is concerned, it connotes the birth of the new and 6th race, forerunner of the last 7th. For this identity, our seal carries the pyramid of Yucatan, whose mate is in Cheops, Egypt. And there is the later landmark in New York of the obelisk of the Temple of On in Egypt, whose mate stands in London to mark the path of evolution of Israel, last of the Aryan cycle. Britain carries on her coat of arms the Lion of Judah, the unicorn of the 10 tribes, and upon the reverse side the Sphinx of Egypt, symbol of the descent of the soul of man from spirit into matter and the evolution of the immortal, completed soul into the life everlasting. Isn't that something? Well, I'll make another video. A lot more deeper stuff to come with lesson 15. Take care. Thank you for whoever's listening.